We're joined now by energy analyst Chris Yelland. Chris, good evening to you. Thanks for your time tonight. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what the minister has had to say today, he's now, of course, has a standing appointment, with the country in as far as giving these updates on what's happening in the Eskom, what we can anticipate. Is this playing a significant role in terms of understanding what the state of the grid is and really where some of the changes are coming from?
Yes, I think it really is good to see a regular communication weekly. It's happening on a Sunday, which is interesting. It shows that, the working week extends beyond just Monday to Friday. And I think the minister is bringing a new energy, a new sense of urgency, a new focus, and a new accountability. Whereas previously we had a whole lot of different people all being told to stick to their lane and not cross the silos of the different ministries and companies involved, like Eskom and municipalities and NERSA and the DPE, DMRE, DFFE, etc. But now, having put one person responsible and accountable for reducing load shedding fast, this is bringing this new urgency. And it brings a level of accountability in one person that we have never seen before. And I think it's starting to show results now.
And that's part of the point, Chris, because when we look at how we are faring in terms of the state of electricity supply. Of course, the worst case scenario was that, we would reach stage 8 and possibly get to a point where there is grid collapse. Now, the updates the minister has been giving, of course, experts like yourself are able to really comb through some of the details with a much finer comb. Can we believe what the minister is saying? And that South Africa is ready for the worst of winter and we won't see a worst case scenario?
Yes, I certainly believe we can and should believe the minister. This is not a game. I hear all kinds of weird and wonderful conspiracy theories, and honestly, they are just nonsense. A lot of effort is being put in, a lot of focus, and this accountability. And you see, you should not stick to your lane. That is exactly what you should not do. The leader needs to be able to cross these boundaries, work together. The minister stressed the whole teamwork approach that is being taken, involving a government, Eskom, business, the private sector, and including the original equipment manufacturers, all coming to the table, not sticking to their silos, but working, in favor of South Africa to resolve a problem that goes way beyond just Eskom. Of course, Eskom is a part of it, but so are many other departments, including municipalities, and we really need to bring all hands to the deck. He also stressed that, the private sector have a deep vested interest in making sure that we don't have load shedding, because it impacts them as customers, and they are showing the necessary willingness to come to the table. They have come to the table, and the minister thanked the whole team for this teamwork approach. So I don't think I think we need to accept his bona fides and give credit where credit is due.
Chris, we also have a lot of focus as a country, but particularly from a governmental and Eskom point of view, on this energy availability factor. And part of the reporting from the ministry and Eskom has that we've seen, upticks in that availability factor over the last month or so. Is that superficial change? What do I mean by that? We have big companies that undergo maintenance over winter, so they need less electricity. We've got, of course, the onboarding of solar energy by so many South Africans that is contributing to the demand. So when we read this change and try to make sense of it, is it something that is going to be sustainable over the long run?
Look, let me first address the question of the energy availability factor. And I have criticized myself last week some of the mixed messaging coming from government, from a cabinet meeting, in fact, in which they said that the energy availability factor was getting closer to 70%. Well, that is an incorrect messaging, because yes, it may be getting closer, but you may as well just say it's getting closer to 100%. The point is, it's nowhere near 70%. It's actually below 60%. Today, I think the minister was absolutely clear. He says they're working hard to try and get that energy availability to be consistently, at 60% or above, and he indicated that it was just below 50% at the moment, which is quite correct. The other point I just want to make about the energy availability factor, it always, every year, it increases towards winter and then declines again after winter as we move to summer, as Eskom do more and more maintenance. So, yes, the energy availability factor, it has improved. It is just below 60%, but it always improves every year, and it's still quite a bit below the energy availability factor of last year. So we haven't even we're actually below last year's figures. We mustn't get the impression that we're doing better than last year. We're not. Yes, we have to work on it, and yes, we have to try and keep that energy availability factor as high as possible, but we can expect as we move to summer that it starts dropping again, because it is always a trend that increases towards winter and decreases over summer.
You spoke about the issue of accountability earlier from a government perspective and the importance of the minister having this briefing weekly as part of that process. When one reads the statements from Eskom, at least over the last couple of weeks, there's a sense that accountability is filtering right down to those that are managing particular power stations. Some of the more problematic power stations seem to be faring better. Chris, what do you think is behind this change? Because I certainly don't want to be speculative, but let's talk about probabilities here. What is driving the difference where you now see, power stations that were always sort of critical are now starting to have less breakdowns and contribute more steadily towards the grid?
Yeah, but first of all, to say that it is early days yet. And as you've said, we need to just watch carefully and monitor the situation to ensure that this improvement is sustainable. There is always an improved availability in winter, I must say. And let us hope that this can rise above last year's figures and not simply follow the previous year's trend. I think you're right in saying that this new accountability is filtering through to the people who can make a difference. It's not the minister that changes the energy availability factor, nor is it the chairman of the board, nor is it the board itself, nor is it the CEO or the acting CEO or whatever. It's actually, the people on the power stations working together as a team. Everything from procurement and spares to planning and execution of maintenance and accountability, for breakdowns, and making sure that after maintenance the units come back on stream and stay up. In other words, that the job is done properly first time. And I think, this accountability that the minister is bringing, and the focus and the urgency, the energy that he's putting into it, is admirable, and it's starting to have an effect.
All right. Well, Chris, we'll hope it'll last very, very long, at least so that in 6 months' time when we have this conversation, we're able to fully reflect on the journey, and hopefully we'll continue to be at a better place as a country electricity-wise. So that's Chris Yelland there, Managing Director of EE Business Intelligence.